It's an oldie, but
mine?
a goodie.
Could you be mine?
Say it.
Won't you be my neighbor?
Yay! They all do it. Hey, I'm Michael. I'm one of the pastors here. This is Pastor Suzanne. We're so glad. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to scream in your ear. But, hey, if you don't mind, pull out your announcement sheet. Wave it around like you just don't care. Come on, see how much noise you can make with it. Come on. All right, now while you're waving it around, grab a pen and start filling out the back side of it if you don't mind. That Connect card, just put your name, email, information you don't mind sharing with us. We won't misuse it. We'll just send you a little info about the church. If you want off that list, just click unsubscribe. You're off the list. Presto changeo, no hard feelings. So at the end of the service, you're going to rip this off and put it in the offering bucket on the way out the door.
If you're a guest here this morning, we welcome you. We know that you have many choices and places to worship, so it's our gift to have you with us. We do have a small gift from us to you. Make sure you stop and say hello on your way out the door so that we can give this to you. We are honored to have you with us this morning. We have some wonderful people here, and we would love for you to be with us and be part of us. If there's any questions we can answer for you, just please let us know. We are in week 2 of our Won't You Be My Neighbor message series. We kicked this off last week. If you missed it, you can go online and check it out and get caught up if you would like to. Last week we talked about this concept of being a neighbor, and we talked about Mr. Rogers, and we kind of all know who Mr. Rogers is. In fact, there's a movie coming out with Tom Hanks where Tom Hanks is going to play the role of Mr. Rogers, and can't wait. Hopefully we can do that for one of our summer blockbusters, which are some things where we look at the spiritual themes in the summer's hottest movies. But Mr. Rogers, he's had this to say about loving our neighbor. Mr. Rogers said that loving our neighbor is a sacred act. It's a holy thing to love the people around us. And so last week we talked about how we need to redefine who our neighbors are. We need to repent for the times that we haven't loved our neighbor like we should. And we need to learn how to relate to our neighbors. And we gave you the 8 neighbor challenge. If you weren't here, the 8 neighbor challenge, you're supposed to find out the names of the 8 people who live closest to you. You could extend that, who work closest to you. You know, to find out their names. Because loving God isn't all there is. God has called us to love our neighbor.
And in fact, last week we talked about the command of Jesus, and it's actually kind of a two-parter, but you can't do one without the other, right? He said you can't love God and not love your neighbor. Even one of his followers said that would make you a liar if you did that, because you can't not love God's kids, right? You don't love me and not like my kid. All right, it's just not happening. All right, so, we're supposed to do that, and that's the command, and you can't do one without the other. They're kind of equal and inseparable. You can't, you need both. You got to have both. And so last week it was an expert in the law who was challenging Jesus to come up with the right answer to what is the greatest command, right? And so Jesus comes up with this, but this week we're going to pull the same thought from a whole other gospel, from the Gospel of Luke. And this week, it's another expert in the law that's challenging Jesus, but his question is completely different. Listen to his question. He says, on one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Right? So it's not what's the greatest command, it's what do I have to do to be saved? That's what we would say nowadays. How can I be saved? How can I get to heaven one day? What's my fire insurance, Jesus? Right? That's what he's saying. What must I do to inherit eternal life? And Jesus was having none of it today. And so he threw a question back on him. He said, what's written in the law? You're the expert. How do you read it? Right? And so this is the guy, this kind of guy, this expert in law, he's the really smart kid in class that has all the answers. That kid, the one that reminds the teacher we have a quiz today? That kid, right? You know who you are. You know who you are, right? He's the kid that has all the right answers, right? And he prides himself in having the right answers. So he has obviously heard what Jesus has said about this and throws Jesus' answer back at him. He goes, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbors yourself. Nailed it. Right? Nailed it. And so, religious people like that. We really like to be right. And this guy really loved having all the right answers. And just to be fair, even though he's a little smug, it's an elegant answer, that love really is the answer to everything. It's a really elegant answer, that came out of Jesus' mouth that he copied. But it's one thing to know the right answer. It's another thing to do something about it.
So this question, it's an important question. Who is my neighbor? In Scripture, whenever you hear a question, you should kind of lean in and you should pay attention, because the answer is often so profound. And people in Scripture ask questions, and Jesus asks questions. When Jesus asks a question, you kind of lean in to see what people say, and something's happening. Jesus is doing something in the midst of it. But these questions that people ask us, a lot of times, in Scripture, we're kind of like, we're like, oh, I don't know what this question is saying. But in this story, this particular question comes along, and Jesus says to him, he says, you have answered correctly. It's like Jesus is saying, good answer, good answer. You've answered correctly. Do this and you'll live. And so he tells this expert that you're going to live. But then it says that the expert wanted to justify himself. So he asked Jesus another question. And who is my neighbor? This expert, these experts in the law, they were Pharisees, and they knew all the answers. They always had the right answer. They were that kid in class. They were that person in your family that you feel like is like an encyclopedia. They always wanted to know the right answer. So he's asking here because he wants to be crystal clear. He wants to clarify. He wants to set the expectations. And guess what? Pharisees, they value being right. I mean, people who are right all the time, it's a value for them. Right? You ever been around somebody who has a compulsive need to be right? Right?
Sorry.
Pharisees want to be right. And you know what's really sad in Christianity? A lot of times as we live out our faith, we're all about being right, aren't we? I mean, we'll use the scriptures to prove our point, right? And we'll use the scripture. We'll cherry pick the verse that makes our point, right? And we'll take it totally out of context and we'll use it. And we'll pull Bible verses so we can control other people, right? Do we do that? And we will pull Bible verses and use them as weapons to hurt other people. And we forget that Scripture tells an entire story. There's this thread that goes from Genesis, the first book of the Bible, all the way to Revelation, the last book of the Bible. And what that thread is that God is crazy about you, that God loves you. You all should be saying amen right now. Amen. God loves you. That's the story in Scripture, that God loves you. And God calls us to love Him, and God calls us to love others. But you know what we do? We want to be right so much. We want to be right, and we'll ask our questions. We'll say, whatever our neighbor is doing, is it biblical, we'll say. Is it biblical? Even Jesus sometimes, he would say, this was biblical, but Scripture says this, and I'm Jesus, and I say that. Do y'all remember that as you read Scripture? Scripture said you should do this, but I'm Jesus, and I say you should do that. So yes, we should ask questions. Is it biblical? But I don't think that's enough. I think we need to ask more. Is it biblical? And then the second part of it, is it Christ-like? Does it represent the character of God? Because that's what we are called to be. As Christians, we are to be Christ-like. When our daughter was a teenager and she'd get ready to go out at night, and they come and they say bye and all that, and she'd get ready to go out the door, and we'd just always kind of, on our way out the door, we'd say these words to her. We'd say, do what's right. Do what's right. And when I taught school and I had those little squirmy, hormone-filled 8th graders sitting in front of me all day long, and they would ask me for advice on something, I would always say, do what's right. Loving our neighbor is not about being right. Loving our neighbor is about doing what's right.
It's such a buzzkill when you say that to her, to do what's right.
Do what's right. Do what's right.
So, this guy's asking for clarification, right? And in typical Jesus fashion, Jesus tells him a parable, which is not crystal clear at all. It causes you to think and question and do all those kind of things. He tells him a story with a point, meant to make you think. You want clarity? Let me give you clarity, right? And so Jesus sets up this situation for him, right? And it's important. When you're telling a story, you got to kind of set up the situation. You have to set out the plot. You have to tell him what's going on. You have to know what's happening and why it's happening. And so he does. He starts to set up the situation. And he says, a man was going down. And the guy's like, wait, hold on a second. What does this got to do with loving my neighbor? A man was going down from Jerusalem, from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. And they stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. It is so important in life, especially if we're going to love our neighbors, to understand the situation. And I would even say this, it's impossible to truly love your neighbors until you really, really understand their situation. It really is. It's hard to love someone unless you know why they're doing what they're doing. And frankly, some people are just hard to love, because we got a lot of people in this world that, if not literally, are figuratively beat up, laying on the side of the road, half dead. Because life will mug you, right? Life will mug you. And it'll leave you like that sometimes. And sometimes those people are the hardest people to love. It's that homeless dude that keeps asking you for change when he's asked the first 12 cars in front of you for change too, right? It's your boss that just ripped you a new one for no good discernible reason, right? It's that lady that's buzzing through traffic, laying on her horn, yelling at people to get out of her way. It's your spouse who inexplicably will not talk to you today for some reason, honey. It's those people. And you know what? You know what the problem with trying to love people like that is? Is because they have triggered something inside of me and they're not too lovable right now, right? And it becomes about me and not about them. And if I don't know their situation, I don't know that homeless guy's a vet who served 2 tours of duty in combat and the VA is really, really let down. I don't know my boss just signed a divorce decree. I don't know that lady that's running through traffic just got a call from the school that says, get here quick, there's something wrong with your kid. I don't know my spouse just got some really, really bad news and needs me to process with her. I don't know that. I heard from a pastor friend of ours the other day. He was teaching us how to lead a church, and he said he received this bit of wisdom. This is, when you're triggered, get curious. When you're triggered, get curious. And what he was really saying was, dig in and try to understand what's going on. Understand the situation. If we're going to love our neighbor, it's not about having the right answer. It's about doing the right thing.
And we're smart people. We know that people have situations in our lives. But honestly, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about what their situation is because we are so incredibly distracted. We're distracted by our emails, we're distracted by our phones, we're distracted by the television, but it's not just technology. We're distracted at the pace of life, we're distracted by our priorities, we're distracted by our problems. We just scurry to and fro, and the first thing to go is our capacity to love our neighbor, our capacity to be involved in relationships. We often encourage people to get in community, to work on those friendships, to work on those relationships. And people say, I'm just too busy. I'm too busy for friends. I'm too busy to love my neighbor. I would suggest that if you're that busy, you are too busy. And you need to clear something off your plate so you can make space so that you can do what Jesus told us to do, which is to love our neighbor. Because our neighbors, they're looking to us. There are so many people who are hurting, so many people who are lonely, so many people who are struggling, so many people who just need a friend. And if we're honest, sometimes that's us. And so Jesus continues and talks a little bit about what these distractions can do in our lives. He says a priest happened to be going down the same road, and he saw the man all beat up laying there, but the priest passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, he passed by on the other side. Now the people hearing this, they would have keyed in on the word priest and they would have keyed in on the word Levite because that's just kind of code for religious people. Religious people, we just walk right on by too, don't we? Somebody will be hurting and we'll walk right on by. We can even use our religion as an excuse for why we don't love our neighbor. I'm too busy, I'm on my way to church. Church told me I have to believe this way, so I can't love you like I'm supposed to do too. I can't love my neighbor. Sometimes this whole loving our neighbors, we get so distracted by things and we operate under this fallacy, that everybody thought somebody would do it and what? Nobody did it. And that happens to us all the time. But when we see something, the Jesus in us calls us to do something. And I get it. I get it that there is so much need out there that some of us, we can just suffer from compassion fatigue. We are worn out by the need around us. But what if we could just do for one what we wish we could do for everybody? Just for one. In the midst of all these distractions and not being able to see somebody right before you, there's something that's even worse than that. That's worse is not seeing somebody in need at all. The other day, Michael and I was sitting at the dentist's office, and Michael was working on this little root canal thing that he's got going on, and I got one going on too. Holy cow, right? And so we're both getting root canals. It's like we do everything together. So anyway, I was sitting in the dentist's office with him while they were working on his tooth, and I was working on this message, and I was, just kind of jotting it all down. And Michael came out, and he said, "Hey, we need to get in the car. We need to go." I said, I just need a few minutes. I'm kind of on a roll here, so I was kind of writing this little thing, and so he sat down, and so I'm writing, and he's on his phone, and the waiting room has like 7 chairs. And I just happened to glance up, and there's this lady, and she's come in the dentist's office, and she is standing there, and there's no chair for her to sit in, and we're so distracted, we're not even looking.
Doing our religious duty.
And, here I am, doing it, exactly, doing the religious duty, and I'm distracted, and didn't meet our need. And we do that all the time. We are all guilty of walking by people of need, and we are all guilty of not seeing when someone is in need, aren't we? God is not going to judge us just on what we do. God is also going to judge us on what we didn't do. And loving our neighbor is so much more than being right. Loving our neighbor is about doing right.
What must I do to inherit eternal life? The funny part is that, you can be so religious and so unloving at the same time. You can be so religious and so unloving. And, you can see that by the example of Jesus throughout there, the priest and the Levite, or, the pastor and the worship leader, you could say. You can see that. And somehow, some way, we need an example. We need somebody to show us how it's done, because the religious examples sometimes really aren't all there. And so that's what Jesus does for him. He gives this guy an example. Here's a good example. That was a bad one. Here's a good one. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came to where the man was, and he saw him. He took pity on him. Samaritan. See, when that guy heard that word, you have no idea how much he just discounted this whole story. You have no idea. It's hard to imagine unless you were in that time and you knew history or whatever, the level of racial and religious hatred between Samaritans and Jews. Much like Israelites and Palestinians today, we have found a million reasons to hate each other. We can't even share the same land. We don't share the same God. They will come up with any reason they can to hate each other. And that's the way it was there. And that's the hard part about loving your neighbor, man, because there's some people you just discount automatically. But what if that person was the example? What if the person who doesn't look like us is the example? What if the person that doesn't think like us is the example? What if the person that doesn't speak like us is the example? What if the person that doesn't love like us is the example? What if the person that doesn't believe like us is the example? What if the person that doesn't vote like us is the example? What if the person that doesn't act like us is the example? Do you discount people automatically because they are different than you? Because they could be the example God is setting right in front of you. My whole life, my whole first half of my life, I judged my father so harshly. Mostly because he wasn't there as much as I thought I needed him to be there. And I judged him so harshly. And as I grew older and I got curious and I started asking questions about his life, and I married a woman who was just naturally curious, and I'd sit there and listen, right? And I watched him start to reveal how his life was and where he ended up and how he was with us and what happened and the steps he took to get to where he is today, and how he loved in spite of every indicator to the opposite that he should us. And I see more Christ in this man who fancies himself an atheist than I see in most Christians. And I had every reason to judge him and discount everything he said because of his beliefs. And yet God placed him in front of me as a lesson. Are you discounting people just because of the difference? When we're going to love our neighbor, it's not enough to know the right answer. You have to do the right thing.
If we're going to love our neighbor, it's going to cost us something. Love always does. Our story continues. The Samaritan went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." You see, the Samaritan knew something that we all need to remember, that if we're going to love our neighbor, it's going to take a little time. It's going to cost us some time. It's going to cost us some effort. It might even cost us a little bit of money. But can you imagine that man who had laid on the side of the road, beat up, and watched all these people walk by and nobody helped him? Can you imagine how he felt when the Samaritan went over and began to tend to him? He had been laying there on the side of the road. He was alone. He was scared. And for the first time that day, he felt safe. And did you know that helping another person feel safe is the greatest gift you can give them? You know, as you all know, Michael and I are foster parents. And when a foster child comes into our house, think about their situation. They come into our home. They've been removed from everything that they knew. They're coming into a house of strangers. And when they walk into our home, one of the first things that we say to them is, "You need to know this. You are safe." And every night while they're in our home, when we put them to bed and we pray for them, the last thing I say before I walk out the door is, "You are safe." But if we're going to help people be safe, and we're going to love our neighbor the way we're supposed to do, we're going to have to be like the Samaritan. It's going to boil down to, we're going to have to be willing to sacrifice. And the concept of sacrifice, we've forgotten it in our all about me world. We make everything all about us, and we forget this concept of sacrifice. It even bleeds over into the workspace. I mean, you talk to employers now. If you're a boss somewhere and you have employees, and in certain places, you know, that sometimes you just got to get the job done, right? We got to love our neighbor. We've just got to get the job done. But in workplace, sometimes employers are like, "Well, am I going to get paid for it?" Right? And somehow that warped thinking oozes into our Christian walk. And it oozes into it, and as it oozes into it, we get to this root thing where when we think when it comes to serving God, you know what we think when we're asked to serve God? One of our first thoughts, if we're honest, is, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? It is good for you to do something for another person that is of no benefit to you. We don't serve God just because it makes us feel good and we get the little helper high. We don't serve God because other people might notice. We don't serve God so that we can maybe make a friend. We serve God because Jesus told us to serve God. We love our neighbor because God told us to love our neighbor. It is good for us to do something and expect nothing in return. You see, when we lose sight of this concept of sacrifice, when we lose the ability to be inconvenienced as we love our neighbor, when we lose the ability to invest in something that we will never get a benefit from for the good of another person, when we lose sight of all that, we've lost sight of what Jesus has called us to be and what Jesus has called us to do. See, loving our neighbor, so much more than being right. Loving our neighbor is about us doing what's right.
Amen. And you know, so Jesus leads this guy to the answer, right? Who's your neighbor? Do you get it yet? You know, religious people, we want sometimes for everything to be black and white. We want certainty. It's why we've elevated our scriptures, these inspired words written down by people who are inspired by God, to the level of God itself. And the scriptures aren't God. They just point us to God. We want it in black and white. We want proof. We want this. We want that. We want to be certain about that. Where's faith in that? Where's mystery in that? Where's life in that? Black and white thinking. And Jesus isn't going to let this guy get off with black and white. He says, which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robber? And the expert in the law replied, or more like he mumbled, the one who had mercy on him. And Jesus told him, now you know what to believe. No, he's told him, go and do likewise. What must I do to inherit life? Eternal life? Do likewise. Like this Samaritan did, this guy that you hate, this guy you would never call a neighbor. Do likewise. Now, I love that Jesus asks questions. This guy asks a question and Jesus asks a question right back, because love, and hear this, love is not the answer. Get that. Love is not the answer. Love is the question. It's the question. And the question we should be asking ourselves every day, every hour is, what does love require of me? In this situation, with this person, with this going on, what does love require of me? Love is not the answer. Love is the question. What do I need to do? Here. You know, you can't approach a world in gray that with your black and white thinking. You just can't. You have to be able to operate in that gray, because that gray is where we love. And done right, that love brings color to this gray world. It fills it with the glory of God. It really does.
You know, this concept of loving our neighbor is such an important concept. And we are super passionate about this, and we want you to be super passionate about this, because the world is watching. Remember, they'll know we're Christians by our love, not by our judgment, not by our hate, not by our hypocrisy. And the world is a scary place, and people are looking to feel safe. You know, the church has a Facebook page. And on that Facebook page, people type things and they, approach the church. It is the saddest thing in the world to me that sometimes people will contact our church and this will be their question. Is your church safe? That's the saddest question in the world that a person would have to ask. The Church of Jesus Christ, is the church safe? We are called to love our neighbor. We aren't called to be right. We are called to love and do what's right in the name of Christ.
Amen. You know, one of the things that we've always tried to do is to get people to do the right thing. If you're going to be followers of Jesus, our job is to help you do the right thing. Not think the right thing, not believe the right thing. Do the right thing. And so we offer you chances to do that every week, and we hope you take this serious. We know a lot of people do. It's on the back of this Connect card. And there's just a couple, and they're super easy. And it follows on with that finding out who your neighbors are. It says, I will invite a neighbor to Easter Sunday. This is one of those times when your neighbor that might not go to church might actually come, because it's kind of a secularized holiday. We got bunnies and eggs and all that stuff, and we're great with that. Because sooner or later you get to the truth of the holiday. But they might just come. They might not be quite as threatening or unsafe to them. It's just a normal church service. So please, invite them to that. And if you don't think they'll come to that, at the very least, and we'll offer you opportunities to invite them. We're going to hand you these on the way out the door. If you want to invite them to that, invite their kids to the egg hunt, to Egg the City this Wednesday night. Invite their kids. Everybody does egg hunts. It's a great thing, and it's a great way for us to get to know our neighbors. That's what this is about. That's why we do all the events we do, is that. And the last thing says, I want to place my faith in Jesus. Are you ready to take all of the religion, all the right things you've learned in this world, all the right knowledge, are you ready to take that and lay it down at the foot of the cross and pick up love? Are you ready to stare down your religious friends and say, no, love demands this of me right now? That's what Jesus did. They crucified him for it. Are you ready to lay down your need to be right in order to do right? That's the question. What does love require of you? And if you want to say yes to that, then Jesus is your man. And you're not ascribing to a certain set of doctrines or beliefs or anything. You're following the person of God. Jesus says, the Father and I are one. If you follow my commands, you will be in me as I am in the Father. You want to inherit eternal life? Learn to do the right thing. Learn to love your neighbor. So mark that on the card. We won't embarrass anybody that's never kind of given their life to Christ or done that or said, I wish to be saved or anything like that. We won't embarrass you, but we will contact you and talk to you about what that means for your life. And if you'd like to be baptized, this is our celebration of washing away all that nonsense in our lives, all the rightness in our lives, to accept the rightness of God. To be